Another entry into the articulation series that I'm talking about are these G.I. Joe figures, mainly because they're the only ones using them right now. I know Spider-Man, this is actually a great figure to talk about for articulation because he has a lot of new things. Neck, waist, and then he has the drop down too. So these drop down hips to me really don't do anything special. Like you see Spider-Man's hip is dropped down, and I'm gonna push it up. And articulation is, he only gets about what, probably 2 degrees higher. It's just, these joints just don't make sense in the long run. They get really loose. Like I have my Lady J, her hips are really loose and they're wobbly and shaky. Like they're terrible. Like if you look, this is not even an old figure. This is a new figure I'm working on. And look, like if these were regular, just straight across T-joint hips, they wouldn't even do this. I don't know why this is even a thing. Because you don't, like I said, you don't get too much more. Like that's dropped down, you can see. And you don't even get that much more articulation. It's the same on all of these figures. They have the drop down. And another thing too is they get really gummy. Like mine, like you can see I'm moving it and it's just snapping back. It's snapping back in place. And that makes me nervous because that indicates the hip is too tight on the ball and it can snap. But you don't really get any extra articulation for that drop down. So I don't see a reason to have it. Even for the ninja characters, let me leave a leg up. Even for the ninja characters like Snake Eyes, that's the reason I brought him out. To show, because this is the first figure we've actually saw it on, which was not this one, but the exclusive one, which is Hasbro. You see the drop down on him first, and then you're like, oh, that's pretty awesome, like that you can do that. But then when you articulate it, you're like, okay, you get that, but then let me put it back and then do it. It's still, I mean, you get a little, it's like I said, probably 2 or 3 degrees higher than normal. It's not that beneficial. Like you can totally just have a static hip and get all the same articulation. You don't have to have the drop down. You don't have to have the drop down in there for anything. It doesn't really work that well. It's not like the Figuarts. The Figuarts do it really good. I didn't even bring one down. The Figuarts and the Mafex, they're really good with the drop down. And a lot of it has to do with the torso piece. The Mafex, matter of fact, let me show you. Mafex Iron Spider, he has the drop down, but look how much more range you get without popping the leg off the joint like that. You get so much more range with this. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, look at that. That's not 2 or 3 degrees. That's totally different. Let me show you the difference. The biggest difference there, you can see this leg is way higher. Like, I can actually get this guy to pose and stand like this. You can get him to pose and look, and he can literally stand without his head touching the ground. Head's not touching the ground right now. He's standing. So these G.I. Joe figures, I guess they can do it, but it doesn't really look the same. I know this pose is kind of weird, but you can see like the drop down hips don't really impact this figure too much. There's not much that they do right, I want to say. They have the potential to get really loose. Like I showed you on Lady, is that Lady J? Yeah, Lady J. Put Spider-Man back. But you just don't get all the range, and then they act really weird. Like you can see in there, they're really weird, and you have to do all of this extra. And then they're loose. I want to say this figures is loose, and I'm even getting some stress marks on mine. If I'm on camera, you can see in there, I'm getting some white stress marks on there. See, that's what I'm talking about. That lets me know if I keep using this, it's going to snap, which is not beneficial to the figure. That doesn't help because, for one, this figure is kind of not hard to get, but I can't just walk in Target and find one now. 2, that shouldn't happen for a figure that's not even, is this figure a year old, I want to say? Maybe a year old? That's not, to me, that's not cool. And you get your regular T-joints and you don't have that issue. Like with Wolverine here, he's a regular T, and you can see his leg is still up. It still goes up. It still does everything it needs to, and I don't have to worry about that joint in there stressing or dropping down and being loose. These G.I. Joe figs, while they're awesome, they're not. The more you use these joints, the looser they're gonna get. And I've went in Snake Eyes and I put in the stuff that makes the joints tighter. I use Pledge floor polish for that. and it made it tighter, but I know the more I use it, the looser it's gonna get. And you can see his is I'm barely touching it, and it moves down. Like, and like hers, it's just not really, to me personally. Like, you might love it and that's awesome, but for me personally, like fresh out the box, this shouldn't be loose. This shouldn't be doing any of this. This should be like, hers are pretty tight. Hers aren't as loose, but like I said, that is stressing, and I don't like that. That's the reason I don't really mess with this figure a lot. I customized it, but I don't mess with it a lot because her hips are really tight, and I know eventually that shit's gonna snap, and I'm gonna be mad. So yeah, the drop down hips are gonna be a no for me. They work on imports. I don't know why. I guess it's the plastics, and his torso is soft and above his crotch. Like, you can see he has a soft torso in there, so that helps with that articulation too. But the drop down hips are gonna be a no for me. I don't really like them. They don't really serve a purpose other than 1 or 2 degrees higher. I don't feel like that's a bad amount of articulation. Of course, I would like it to be better, but then that would have to involve like a softer torso and better engineering. But the drop down hips don't solve a problem. They don't solve the problem of the leg not coming up high enough. It just makes another problem, in my opinion. Like, comment, and subscribe. You know, let me know what you think about drop down hips. Not something I want to see going forward. I really wish they would stop doing it. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks.